Why is it so easy to get addicted to something that is bad for you, but it's hard to get addicted to something that is good? I want to explore this topic today because I had a conversation with a friend who I haven't seen for a month, who was in this sort of situation. And it is something that I have faced myself in my early 20s, and I was alone when I faced this situation between good and bad habits, and why it was so much easier to fall into the cycle of doing bad things, useless things that brought no positive outcomes, or even positive actions in my life, rather than actually focusing on the good, the useful, and the positive habits that brought real results. So one thing that I explained today in my conversation with this friend was that, well, firstly, we have a choice of what we do in life. You can change your situation simply by changing your attitude towards it, because we can control that. And secondly, changing the actions that you do, right? Focusing on those two things that you can control in life is going to help you get out of that rut or move on and try to do something about your situation. Now, when I was facing these situations 2-3 years ago, maybe even further back, I was alone. I had no one to speak with. It was just me and my mind and my bad habits. I was falling into bad habits with gaming, social media, and just overall screen time usage was very high. I didn't realize at the time how much it was affecting me, but now that I reflect on it and am conscious about how much time I spend consuming content, looking at, what other people put out there in the world, and how much time I put towards looking at things that actually don't matter in my life, like watching the news, consuming content that is not useful for me right now in this very moment, and information and knowledge that looks good, sounds good, and is entertaining to consume and watch, but it doesn't help me progress, doesn't move the needle that I need to move in my life. So I realized that instead of consuming this content that may be good content, may be useful for someone, and may have some sort of benefit, in my life, but it doesn't have an immediate effect without me obviously taking action on it. So what did I do about it, and how did I overcome this? It is a battle, and it's not won immediately. It takes time and takes systems, most importantly, to develop and put in place, so that you're not relying on willpower and motivation to move forward. So what I did is I firstly became conscious about my daily screen time, across all devices. I mainly use a phone and a laptop day to day. So I realized what was the top 3 things that I was spending most of my time consuming. And to my surprise, these 3 things were YouTube. And if you're watching this, hello, older Alex or Lexi. YouTube was the first. Second place was Instagram. And the third was actually LinkedIn, to my surprise. So these 3 platforms I was using the most. Now, there are a number of other platforms as well on that list that I could go on about, but these were my top 3 that I was actually scrolling on, consuming other people's content, taking in, updates from, close family and friends, acquaintances and whatnot, colleagues. And it was like very entertaining to watch, and it was great to be in the know, but it's brought me no immediate value in my life. It didn't move the needle that I needed. It didn't progress me forward. It didn't help me in any way, apart from just knowing about other people's lives and where they're at, which is great. But when you're trying to build positive habits, when you're trying to focus on yourself, as selfish as that may sound, looking at and comparing other people's lives with your own can be very detrimental. So firstly, being conscious, realizing what am I spending my time on most, and where am I spending that time specifically. Second step was to eliminate the most used platforms that were sucking my time out of my day, so that I no longer spent time on actually consuming content. I spent it on creating it. I only consciously now use my time to consume content that is going to be useful for me, to then help other people and create content like this, to share lessons and things that I've experienced through my own life, and by doing and taking action on these systems that I've built myself for myself, and making that progress. So being conscious, firstly, to recap. Secondly, removing or eliminating the most prevalent distractions. And the third step would be to review screen time as often as possible. Usually, ideally every day, but once a week, every fortnight, at the latest, to see if there's any improvement, or if I do find myself again getting back into that cycle of consumption, I would call it useless consumption at this point, to be honest, because there's nothing useful about being on a binge on YouTube, or being on a binge scrolling reels on Instagram or Facebook, or any other platform for that matter. So if it's only purely for entertainment, then it's purely for entertainment. There's no other value, and it doesn't bring you forward. So I encourage you to review your screen time and look at how social media, content consumption, and these things can affect your life, because it definitely can get you into a very dark place, and it can do it very fast. So that's my experience. Comment down below if you've come across something very similar, or if you were stuck in a different rut before, and how you overcame it. That's all for this one. I'll see you in the next one tomorrow.